Same people who own the labels own the prisons.
Literally the same people?
Literally the same people who own the labels own private prisons.
In the shadowy corridors of the rap music industry, a haunting narrative unfolds. And has, in fact, been unfolding for years, revealing a cloak-and-dagger dance with the prison system.
The records that come out are really geared to push people towards that prison industry.
As lyrical maestros like Tupac and NAS spin tales that both reflect and indict societal injustices.
You know, some records are made by committee, meaning record company guys sit around, this is hot, say that, do this, we're gonna have this guy write the lyrics.
Some conspiracy theories suggest that those very same lyrics are ominously employed by the powers that be to attract and keep as many people as possible incarcerated. Let's take a deep dive and explore the origins of this theory, unraveling what it could mean for the music industry, and most importantly, the ripple effect on society, particularly among the younger generation. Welcome to Hustlers in the Hood. Since rap's humble beginnings in the streets and parks of the South Bronx in New York City, it has, in just about 50 years, become a United States phenomenon and a global cultural and entertainment movement. Rap artists regularly top American and international record sales charts. Motion pictures with hip-hop themes chart regularly on box office reports, both in the United States and internationally. Rap artists have become record moguls, international movie stars, clothing designers, stars of reality television programming, and world-renowned collaborators. Without a doubt, rap has become a dominant cultural force and, in many ways, has become the voice of a generation. The global movement, however, sprang from very humble roots, with its artists emerging from neighborhoods marked by systemic disparities and uniquely devastating conditions of deindustrialization and the criminalization of poverty. Rap's origins are rooted in the desperate cries of some of the most oppressed communities. It's no wonder rappers use their verses to echo the harsh realities of the streets. Tupac Shakur, for example, is widely known as the poetic voice of the oppressed. Meek Mill, the modern-day warrior against injustice, and Kendrick Lamar, the graffiti artist who paints vivid images of a system that cages dreams in concrete cells. Very early on, rap artists began to understand the power and influence they could wield in molding the destinies of rap fans and adherents. In the 1980s, socially conscious rap stars KRS-One and Public Enemy began articulating clear messages to the public with albums like Edutainment and songs like Fight the Power. Becoming keenly aware of their growing influence, many took it upon themselves to educate, inspire, and kindle a fire in the bosoms of their fans. Hip-hop legend Tupac Shakur recognized this influence when he boldly stated, "I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world." Unfortunately, this is where the story turns. As rap culture began to grow in its power and influence, a reoccurring debate has raged as to whether rap's influence has been a positive force or a destructive mechanism. The plot even thickens with the sect believing that in fact, rap's influence might be the single most contributing reason the prisons have maintained their full-to-capacity status through the years. The anonymous letter. Enters a mysterious letter from 2012 claiming a clandestine 1990s meeting between music industry insiders and the prison industrial complex. That unsigned letter claimed to document the amalgamation of America's most powerful forces, the music industry, and the prison industrial complex took place. The nameless writer detailed how the meeting began with, "One of my industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless like everyone else, thanked us for attending." He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no further details about his personal background. I think he was the owner of the residence, but it was never confirmed. He briefly praised us all for the success we had achieved in our industry and congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. At this point, I began to feel slightly uncomfortable at the strangeness of this gathering. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement. He explained that the companies we work for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. At this, the writer expresses his confusion, stating that it was, in fact, the first time he'd hear of private prisons. I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in confusion. At the time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were and what any of this had to do with us. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who receive funding from the government based on the number of inmates. The more inmates, the more money the government would pay these prisons. It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. At this point, my industry colleague, who had first opened the meeting, took the floor again and answered our questions. He told us that since our employees had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by marketing music which promotes criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as employees, we'd be able to buy personal stocks in these prisons. Immediately, silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming and saw half of the people with dropped jaws. My daze was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a fucking joke?" Now, the billion-dollar question, is the conspiracy later fabricated? This letter was made even more popular by Crazy Bone in an episode of his podcast, Truth Talks, back in 2019, in a bold step still being lauded today.
There is the secret meeting that changed rap music and destroyed a generation.
The Bone Thugs and Harmony member spoke on the industry's sadistic secret plot, saying, "And I want to make it clear, our intention is simply to wake up the minds and open the eyes of everybody that may be aspiring to make it in this business, and just to give them a forewarning of some of the evil things that have been going on within the music scene and behind the music scene as well." He went on to read the letter and proceeded to speak extensively about the fact that some of his colleagues in the rap industry allowed themselves to be used to glorify a life of violence with the aim to populate the prison systems. We see for ourselves the continual themes that most of the rap songs have. We also see how rap fans are diehards. Will it be out of place to say the violent lyrics really do not have an influence on the fans' life decisions? The proponents of this theory will trace their evidence back to Tupac Shakur. In 1992, a Texas state trooper, Davidson, was murdered. Investigators claimed to have found a tape of Tupac's "Tupacalypse Now" inside the accused shooter's car. Ronald Ray Howard, 19, pulled over while driving a stolen car, shot Officer Bill Davidson in the neck, and later told authorities he was listening to Soulja Boy's story as he loaded his weapon and prepared to kill the officer. While a jury rejected his excuse, Howard was sentenced to death. Davidson's widow didn't, filing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Tupac for influencing the young man to kill her husband. Rappers like Ice Cube have vocally pitched their tents on this side of the divide. Speaking with Bill Maher on Bill's podcast, the West Coast icon spoke about the dangerous social engineering that record labels conduct.
Literally the same people who own the labels own private prisons.
Literally the same people who own the labels own private prisons, so it feels kind of suspicious that the records that come out are really geared to push people towards that prison industry. Cube then elaborated on his ominous claim, saying that we just had to follow the money and it will become apparent that some owners of record labels also own prisons. Who benefits and profits off our bickering and division? He questioned. I don't know their names, but if you follow the money, you go high enough, you start to see literally the same people who own the record labels own prisons. Deal is another rapper that has spoken out against the bad influence rappers have on their fans.
Man, I hate when I see these gray-haired clout chasers.
In an appearance on Sway Calloway's radio show, Sway's Universe, Deal openly criticized Meek Mill, Rick Ross, and Jim Jones for their conflicting messages. He questioned how they could advocate for prison reform while simultaneously glorifying violence in their music. Jim Jones, you could do better, brother. I love you too much to not be honest with you. Rick Ross, you could do better, brother. Meek Mill, you could do better, brother. I love you too much not to be honest with you. Oh, you the face of prison reform? Or are you sitting here on your new song with Ross talking about getting somebody murked and shot at the red light? Which one is it, bro? If you're enjoying this video so far, please leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel to join our community. Your support also plays a big role in giving the video a boost on YouTube. Thank you for the support. Now let's get back into it. Public figures outside the industries have also aired their opinions concerning the conspiracy. FoxSports.com columnist Jason Whitlock in writing about the November 2007 shooting death of NFL player Sean Taylor, had this to say: "Our self-hatred has been set to music. I blame hip-hop for playing a role in the genocide of American black men. But beyond that argument lies a historical context that the proponents of this theory might be overlooking. Long celebrated forms of African American music, such as jazz and blues, have always been sprinkled with sexuality and measures of violence. Granted, rap music is more lyrically explicit, and sexual double entendre has been used for nearly a century in jazz and blues. In 2007, the murder rates in New York, the birthplace of rap, and Chicago, hometown of Kanye West, decreased to levels unseen since the 1960s. This is even more noteworthy, given that firearms are far more prevalent and powerful today than years ago. A study released in 2006 by Franklin Zimring of the University of California, Berkeley, found that crime rates across all major cities declined in the gangsta rap 1990s to levels more closely resembling those of the big band era. Many people on this line of thought opine that if America wants to change rap lyrics, America must change the realities that inspire those lyrics. Some others argue that the good rap music has done over the years far outshines the bad it allegedly perpetrates. According to them, rap music has been a potent means to spread the stories of those who live in marginalized, under-resourced, over-policed communities, and to educate listeners about mass incarceration. Its contribution to public discourse about the injustices of the criminal legal system cannot now be ignored. The songs are heard loud and clear. Proponents of this theory refer to artistic expression and posit that rap, like any other art form, is a medium for artists to express their experiences and observations. Therefore, not all lyrics should be taken literally, as they can be metaphorical or reflect the artist's storytelling skills. To this point, Fat Joe lends his voice, using his personal experience to defend Young Thug, who is currently facing a RICO trial. Fat Joe criticized the prosecutors for taking lyrics that they know are fictional and using them as evidence against Thug. This highlights a growing issue within the rap community, where artists face legal consequences based on their creative expressions. The conspirators on this side of the divide also mention how the environment, including family, education, and community, significantly shapes an individual's values and behavior, maintaining that rap is just one of many influences, and its impact is mediated by various other factors. They insist that while rap music may include themes of violence and drug use, it is not accurate to assert a direct and uniform influence on young black men. It is at this point of the argument that you can't help but think of rappers like J. Cole and Nipsey Hussle, and how they are beacons of hope for positivity and transformation. Despite the controversy, rapper J. Cole has seemed to find a middle ground and begun to end the debate without picking a side. The Dreamville rapper's influence has impacted the rap game for the past decade and seems to be making a complete shift in hip-hop. Both Cole's music and how he impacts others are evident of the fact that rappers can make the choice on what type of influence they wield. On the other hand, in an interview with Hot 97, Nipsey Hussle talked about how his early lyrics were negatively impacting his fans. That's when he made the decision to completely change the messages in his music.
Now the energy through these interviews, it's showing back up in my show. So that's when I decided I'm gonna speak what I want to see. And I started talking about business, opportunity, progress, and optimism. And I saw that come back to me also.
It's hard to deny what much of today's rap music represents. The authenticity in lyrics that once expressed the violence endured in ghettos, exposing social injustices, has been fading away and transforming into a sort of empty glorification of violence. At the end of the day, no matter what side you're on, and true to Ice Cube's words, there seems to be a calculated effort to perpetuate urban disarray by the power that be. From all indications, the prevalence of violence and drug-related themes in rap lyrics is not mere artistic expression, but rather a deliberate ploy to manipulate and control marginalized communities. To tie it all up, here's a summary of what has been said. The puppet masters. Conspiracists claim that shadowy figures within the music industry, with ties to influential institutions, orchestrate the careers of certain rappers. These puppet masters allegedly encourage and promote artists whose lyrics depict a lifestyle marked by violence and drug use, aiming to perpetuate a cycle of societal unrest while building up a billion-dollar empire for the owners of private prisons, manufacturing stereotypes. The powers that be exploit rap as a tool to perpetuate negative stereotypes about urban communities. By amplifying narratives of crime and substance abuse, the conspirators can further stigmatize these communities, diverting attention from systemic issues and reinforcing prejudiced views, indirectly populating prisons further. Diverting attention from real issues Conspiracists suggest that the focus on controversial rap lyrics serves as a distraction from addressing more pressing societal problems. By steering public discourse towards the perceived influence of rap, the alleged orchestrators divert attention from issues such as systemic racism, economic inequality, and inadequate educational opportunities. This plunges communities that are already marginalized into deeper poverty levels and criminal activities, creating more prison candidates. The conspiracy theory stacks up an unmistakable wall of evidence, connecting the content of rap lyrics and the expansion of the prison industrial complex. They insist that by fostering an environment where criminality is glamorized, conspirators allegedly contribute to increased incarceration rates, benefiting private prison interests and maintaining a cycle of social control. While this conspiracy theory may seem far-fetched, it highlights the importance of critically examining the societal impact of cultural expressions and begs the need for privately owned prisons to be overturned to the government. What's your take on the connection between rap lyrics and incarceration? Do you believe there's a deliberate effort to manipulate and control through music? Or is it simply a reflection of the artist's experiences? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation going. Your perspective matters. Thanks for watching. Peace out.